to get on the road, and we're still missing Trang, but I didn't hear anything from her, and Tony has an excused absence. So I just need a motion to adopt the agenda, but actually I want to add one thing real quick.
Or
Maybe
Karen,
it's an amendment, but I guess maybe,
hey, Karen,
yes.
I can just
Yes.
mention the reserve study and the financial discussion and update on that. If
Okay,
you want to do that instead.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just do that. Okay,
Okay.
so I just need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
We have a second?
Penny,
Oh, Penny. Okay, I missed it. I guess my internet's slow too. Okay. And we can just approve that by acclamation. Next, the 8:26 minutes. Motion to approve those. I'm not hearing anybody, sorry.
I
All right,
someone's got to make
move
a,
to approve the minutes.
second.
Okay, so that was Colin. Approved by acclamation, or does anyone have any changes or questions? Are we good? Okay, we'll approve by acclamation then, and we'll move on to the capital request.
good evening, everybody. At this time, I know we brought this up at last meeting. We put it to this meeting to get more information, to get everybody better stuff so that we can present it in a better fashion to you guys and then eventually, hopefully, to the board. So at this point, I will turn it over to Maddie. We also have Bruce and Andrea here to add any technical support or input from that going tonight. So Maddie?
Yeah, so we provided you guys an updated staff report and request for the Marina replacement system for the 2 boat launches. So the staff report, I'm not going to go into in big detail, but we detailed why we need a gate system, at all, and the difficulties and issues with the existing system that we have, what we're proposing as a new system, and an explanation of the bidding for the project, which was a little complicated. So we provided an updated cost chart for you guys that you can see on page 10 with an updated request as well there. And then you can see a photo of the proposed system on page 21. It's attachment F. It's the last page of your staff report there. So that's what it would actually look like. Yeah, so you'll see on page 10 the updated financial request of $39,034.40. We are asking for 10% contingency for this project because it does involve some electrical and trenching work, which can easily run into some issues. So we are asking for that. So it's a total of $42,934.84 for the Marina replacement gate system, to be executed by our maintenance department with Gateway Controls and Security Solutions. They're the companies we work with right now for our systems. And the updated bids are attached to the staff report for you guys. And we have some diagrams of the proposed configuration down at the Marina. And that's about it. We're happy to answer any questions that you guys have. But this is tried to address, some of the questions that you guys had from the last meeting. Yeah, Leslie.
Yeah, on page 10, you're talking about a contingency of $3,903, et cetera. And that is a contingency on the entire bid, not just on Gateway Controls portion of it. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, so Bruce, do you want to talk about why we would need that extra money? Like I said before, the largest bid, obviously, if you look at that table there, is Gateway Control. So that's why we're asking for that 10%, because the bid for Gateway Controls is $31,810. And The next, is maintenance at $7,224.37, and they're buying some materials there. And I think the idea was if the cost of materials changed, we would have some wiggle room there, because I think that's a pretty exact pricing that Bruce did. And it's in one of your attachments too. But Bruce, do you want to explain why we kind of need that contingency too?
Sure. Leslie, remember back when we put badges or card readers on the floats out there so that people come and go through the gates? At that time, we actually trenched similar to what we're doing now. I believe at that time the estimate was 3 to 4 days to do that. It ended up being, I'm saying, at least 2 weeks. They actually went from what they call a hydrovac, a water blasting way, into a jackhammer. The contingencies in there to cover that. Gateway controls, I believe it was $120 an hour. If it goes beyond the 3 days they're estimating. So that's the contingency primary reason. Can you hear me okay, Leslie?
I heard
I
you,
heard
yes.
you.
Can someone remind me how many years the last gate survived?
Say again, Colin?
How many years was the last, is the gate for the main ramp for boats? The only one that's actually got the arm on it that's electronic. How long has that system worked? And how long do we think that this one will last?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say that the gate went in about 2006 or 7. I'm not really sure on that. How long will this one last? Gosh, that's a good guess. I'll give it 10 years. If we were to doing an estimate, I'd give it 10 years. Remember, Colin, on this one, we've been fighting it for several years. It's been breaking down. We've been getting it fixed. We're at the point now we just can't reliably say it's going to operate.
What was
So-
the original, sorry,
Go ahead, Trent.
what was the
Okay.
original cost for the gate that was installed? Do you remember or no?
No, I sure don't.
But after the 10 years, if the gate has a useful life of 10 years, it wouldn't necessarily require the same work to replace it. The ballers would still be intact. Some of the electrical work would already be. So a replacement would be significantly less than this particular proposal, because we're kind of changing the system. Is that correct? We are changing the
That's correct.
system.
Yeah. For example, the trenching is already going to be there. The wires are pulled. It'd just be a matter of really going out to the pads where the gate operators are and replacing that stand, if you will, as shown in the picture.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we can't do now with this current system, because it's all that wiring and the system underneath that is unreliable and would, I guess we'd have to pull up the launch to fix it.
Yeah, you'd have to
Yeah.
excavate out, all of that concrete, obviously, to try and fix the sensors underneath, which is would be incredibly expensive, and it would require permitting, through Whatcom County and Fish and Wildlife, and we're really not wanting to go down that path, obviously. So this is, actually the more economical option compared to trying to replace or fix this failing system.
Yeah, so what I'm getting at is, what's this going to cost us going forward? So just estimate every 10 years, we're going to spend how many $1,000s to replace the arm and whatever parts need to be replaced.
Fast forwarded, if we had to
So
replace.
wouldn't that
both
go
of-
into the reserve study? Wouldn't that become something that the reserve specialist would be estimating, and we'd estimate that the same way we estimate everything else?
I assume.
Yes,
so.
it would go in the reserve study. I mean, the arms, Colin, the actual physical arms themselves, unless someone breaks them, you don't have to replace them. It would be the component parts inside the box. Just like, imagine you had the irrigation system, you have the controllers. Through time, those controllers, they change, they break down, and you have better systems. Okay,
I'm just-
that might be the only
okay,
thing it changes.
All I want to, I'm just curious approximately, this is a piece of equipment that's gonna have to be replaced. I know that it's gonna go into the reserve study. I know it's not gonna cost us $40,000 every 10 years. Just trying to get a ballpark of what this, because we're making a major change to how this area operates, and I just want to know what we're getting into for long term. I'm not going to hold anyone's, accountable 10 years out when we replace it. I just want an idea.
Colin, if you ask me, put me on the spot, 14,000 to replace the operators. That would be the most that I could see.
Okay, so about 14 grand every 10 years. It's about a 1,400 annual.
Yeah, don't put me on the stand on that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a motion so that we can talk about this.
Good idea.
So I'll make a motion that we recommend to the board that the approval from the CRRF account, $42,937.84 in order to improve and replace the launch gate system at the marina.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, now discussion. Thanks, Penny, for keeping us on track.
I tried to do it a while ago, but
Yeah.
didn't get there.
Yeah,
So,
it's okay.
So are we ready for the discussion?
Yep.
Okay, so sorry, came a little late to the party again. So just so that I can wrap my head around it, from the last meeting we had, if we were to fix the existing gate, it would be around 11,000. Am I right, Bruce? Or 10,000? No. What was?
I'll go with that figure, about 10,000. That makes it round.
Yeah, that's what I remember, I think. So to replace it completely with a brand new system, it's going to cost us about 40,000. But every 10 years would be about 14,000 for repair or replacement. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay. So the one we had before last, if you say it was 2007, which is my anniversary, so it's like 13 years it has lasted. And then this system estimated to be about 10, maybe a little longer. Am I correct in that part?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm getting a really, you need to cut, I was hoping maybe you or Maddie can sell me on why we are replacing it instead of just fixing it.
Sure. Trying not to get real technical, there's detectors that are embedded in the concrete that on the old system that actually tell us whether there's metal, like such as a boat trailer or a vehicle on the launch pad. That's not typical of an arm safety feature. They're constantly soaked in water. They're not meant to be. They can get wet. They can be in a rainstorm, but when it dries up, so does the water around the detectors. What's we're at now is we think the detectors are failing. That's one of the reasons why that arm came down. We've had gateway controls in numerous times trying to troubleshoot it. They have not located it, but what the problem is. So if we were to install a new system down there, we would still be facing the same problems. We would be soaking those detectors. The safety features are unreliable.
Right, so I'm guessing, I'm trying to figure out is that the maintenance require and the problem that may occur or will occur or what, is that a $30,000 problem? I mean, can you give me a number that I can wrap my head around and saying, okay, if we replace it, we can possibly face this amount of expense, like the maintenance. Each time we call them to come by and and fix it or whatever they need to do to get it operating, how much does that cost us?
saying I don't think it's a matter of cost. It's a matter of safety.
Right, so it's safety.
No matter what we do now, we could ask them to come in and spend 20,000, 10,000. They'd walk away and the next day the gate's gonna close on a car.
Mhm.
That's the problem. It's not a matter of can we go down and change it. That system down there, and I hate to keep going technical, is not a standard system for a boat launch. Boat launches do not have that safety feature on them. You have a gate up on dry land that you drive your car and your boat through. Now you can maneuver around, you can go down the launch. You can sit there for a half a day on the launch without worrying about anything. There's no gate down there. That's what we're trying to overcome.
Okay, so the replacement of the boat launch gate is for a safety issue.
I would say it's more of a safety issue than it is anything else.
Okay,
Yeah, just to add to what Bruce was saying, we would hate to spend $10,000, to try and fix this failed system, really, because like Bruce said, the sensors are underneath that concrete that's constantly being exposed to water, so we'd hate to go in there, try to fix it, but we're going to experience the same problem over and over. And it would be a waste of money to try and, to do that, because we have a really high water table that's just always going to be there and impacting those sensors. So that's why we're proposing this new system where the sensor would be above the ground. It's a standard size system that can easily be worked on. We're just not going to have this big safety issue anymore.
And if I remember our conversation, thank you both for that and trying for the question. But if I remember our conversation last time around too, I would say safety is the predominant issue, but when it fails, we have two options. We close the launch or we prop it open and keep it open. And when we prop it open and keep it open, it can be used by our people that have gone through the process and have the card and whatever, and anyone else. And so when that happens, we don't have the proper protocols in place to check for AIS cards and that kind of thing. So maybe Andrea, you could speak to that a little bit more, because I know we had it propped open for a couple of weeks. And what I recall us talking about last week is that we're at a little bit of a risk there because we have an obligation to ensure that the boats entering from our launch are properly certified or whatever.
Absolutely. So part of the renewal process is, current documentation as well as the AIS permitting, which, we're required to make sure that people get that permitting so that we're doing our part for the watershed. And I do know that that period of almost 6 weeks where we did have the gate open, there were even employees from Lodell Donovan sending people our way to launch, and we became, the traffic was more than what we could contain. And it also posed a problem with emergency issues. If we were to have, the fire truck or fire authority to come down there, the parking was just, it wasn't available for people. So there's many factors to that. It's controlling the amount of people that are launching there, but also making sure that we're doing our part in Sudden Valley for the watershed.
And did somebody say the second launch that has just a manual arm, is that always down, or if someone wants to launch a sailboat from there?
So there is a lock and code on there for people with sailboats to use. Per the county, that cannot be left unattended. So if we were to leave that open for folks, we would have to have somebody, an employee physically there to let people in and out while that gate is open. And that's something that we don't have.
So this system also allows us to gain control over the second launch.
Yes.
Yeah.
As one gate access for both.
Okay, other questions, comments, or should we call the question? Oh, Trang, go ahead.
Sorry. What is
No.
the timeline for this since boating season's almost over? Like, are they going to be working it off if it gets approved? Do you know?
I'd have to go back to see when we would get the electrical contractor, not we, Gateway can get the electrical contractor in. But Sudden Valley owns a hydrovac. And as far as the belt bollards go, as far as what Sudden Valley is gonna go, we can work that up into the freezing weather. And then if we're not finished, which we could go then next spring and say, I'm getting a shot, it's not gonna be freezing in April. We could probably start in March. We can do this within the time frame before boating season opens.
Lori. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry, I was on two screens. So when I looked at the attachment D for all of the quotes, it looks like we only got one quote. Is it our policy? It looks like Steel Magnolia and Upright Fence and Construction said they do a design consultation, but it doesn't. Do we not pay for consultations or quotes?
What I did back in January, I went out for 4 quotes locally. It's real hard to read, but you'll see 2 dates on there on some of them.
Some of them.
Yeah, where you see 2 dates, that was 4 quotes I did in January. Nobody responded. Okay, so this time around, I started at the Canadian border and I went clear through Tacoma. Every company that said they had quote gates on them, I have one response: Gateway Controls. Some of them said they wouldn't work this far, others just didn't answer.
Well, there's 2. There was one from Upright Fence in Deming. They said they do a design consultation at $35 an hour, and that was asked on 9/4. And then Steel Magnolia in Blaine said something about he was thinking about charging for quoting. So, but that was on 9/2. So just a little, almost 2 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the one that's in Deming, that was off their webpage. They did not respond back to us at all. That $35 an hour. Steel Magnolia, you should have seen the nasty letter or email they sent. It was, hey, we keep bidding on the same thing every 4 to 5 years. We're thinking now we're going to just charge you to bid on it. And at that point, I'm not going to deal with somebody like that.
Right.
And another, if I remember from Maddie's nice explanation last time, another challenge is that our current cards don't work with any of these other companies. So we would have to, which wouldn't be out of the question, but we'd essentially have to issue separate cards for people with marina access if we went with a different system, which it sounds like no one even bid it anyway. Maddie could explain that better how to do.
Yeah, Colin, when I sent that quote out, I did specify they had to integrate with our current card system.
Oh, okay.
So just to reiterate, Steel Magnolia did give us a quote on this type of project years ago.
Did Steel Magnolia give us a quote? No.
Not on this one, just
No.
on other bids.
And by the way, just for reference, I've been here since 2008. I don't recall them ever being asked to bid on a job.
Other questions, comments? Okay, call the question. Let me see if I can read it again. All those in favor of approving, let me find the exact number, $42,937.84 from the CRRF account for the improvement and replacement of the Marina Gate Arm System. Say aye or raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? I thought I had you on. Leslie, did you vote for or against? I missed it.
In favor, yes.
In favor. Okay, thanks. I think there was a little timing glitch. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the problem I've discovered is on my end. I'm having unstable computer internet.
Mine is a little bit too, actually. So I think we're all feeling it now. Okay, so let's go ahead. Thank you guys for the good discussion. Let's go ahead and move on to financial statements. Take it away, Joel.
Penny's leaving.
Bye.
Bye, Penny.
See
Thank
ya.
you for sticking around.
Yep.
Bye,
thank you.
Penny.
Bye.
Bye,
Um,
Penny. See, so I'll start off with Karen was going to, she was going to talk. I was just going to briefly mention, so the reserve study is on the, we have the 2020 final reserve studies. They're posted to the resident resources website link on the Sun Valley website. So anyone can go there and see those reserve studies. And I believe, so they have the last one was the 2020 reserve study was a level 2 on-site inspection reserve study. The one before that was a level 3 reserve study, which means not on-site. Those are both actually on the Sun Valley website under the resident resources link. And so just to talk about in the 2020 reserve study, so the SURF fund in the 2020 final reserve study that's online is, so it's 9% funded. Last year in the 2019 reserve study is 26% funded. And now the thing that makes the funding level is just basically a math component of how much your annual contributions are versus how much your annual expenditures are according to the reserve study. So, and those two things combined is what governs what our funding level is. Now these funding levels are on a fully funded projection basis. So 2020 SURF 9%, 2019 SURF 26%. Roads 2020 was 19% funded. Roads in the 2019 reserve study 30% funded. Of course, mailbox 2020 was 20%, 2019 very similar, around 20%. We're obviously not spending out of roads right now since we're building up reserves for future expenditures, but those are all online under the resident resources link for anyone to view, whoever wants to look at those. And with the reserve studies, basically like that gate arm. So when we spend money, when we actually do that gate arm, and then when that project is closed out, then that will show up on the next reserve study. And then that will be a component of that reserve study. And then until we replace that, then that will also get a 2.5% inflation rate, so to speak, year by year over the useful life of that arm. So every asset that's on the reserve study has the exact same replacement year as it did on the 2019 reserve study, and it'll stay that way until we actually work on those assets. And that's just basically a component of the reserve studies. Or until, like the board comes up with a plan with whatever asset to not work on it, or maybe to do some component units instead of a rebuild or whatever, then at that point, then that would become a situation that would change the reserve study as well. Now, onto the financial statement. So this is just page 1 of your handout, which is just the balance sheet. So basically, there's nothing too exciting with this. Net operating assets, total capital current assets, basically capital cash balances, net assets total. Those are all up from where they were in June last month. Turn the page to page 2 of your handout. So now we're getting into the income statement here. I also emailed you guys a spreadsheet that's just, all that spreadsheet is just exactly these collection rates from July, June, and August, basically this year versus last year, and those are things that I've talked about from month to month, but I just gave it to you in Excel format so you have in front of it where you can see it. So I'll start off with the collection rate. So July, I mentioned this before, but at the end of July 2020, month-to-date collection rate 98.2%. In June, the collection rate month-to-date was 94.6%. So it went out from June to July. Year-to-date, the collection rate at the end of July was 94.6%. Year-to-date, at the end of June, the collection rate was 93.9%. Now, in July 2019, Month to date was 99.8% versus the 98.2% of July 2020. Year to date, July 2019 collection rate was 96.9% year to date versus 94.6% year to date in July 2020. Now, the August numbers are calculated as well for the collection rate. So the August numbers, the collection rate dropped. In July 2020, it was 98.2%. In August of 2020, then it went to 93.9%. Year to date, the collection rate, July was 94.6%, like I mentioned. Then in August 2020, then that ticked down just a little bit because that month to date to 94.5%. Now, August 2019, the collection rate was 96. So basically, July 2019 collection rate was 99.8%, but then you also saw a drop to August 2019 of 96.7%. So last year you had the same sort of drop between July and August, the same sort of kind of a type of drop. Now, July 2019 year to date was 96.9%, and then that actually August 31, 2019, it's still 96.9%. Of course, if you push the number out into the hundredths decimal place, and you would see that it actually dropped a little because of that change as well. Now, going in terms of like net, so now I'm looking at the net income for July 2020. The net income is 127,680. Last year at this time, July 2019, is 422,583. In June, though, of 2020, it was only 12,035. So we've recouped some good ground. We've gone from 12,035 net income and at the end of June 2020, and now our net income is spiked up to 127,680 at the end of July 2020. At the end of June 2020, we were running at we were worse than budget, 167,504, which of course that kind of it's kind of close to the amount of dues that we forgave. It's actually a little better than it is better than the amount of dues that we forgave. So we would expect to see that kind of a worse than budget deficit at the end of June. Now at the end of July, so at the end of June, worse than budget, 167,504. Then at the end of July, it became worse than budget by only 99,480. So you can see that we're recouping ground. Now, if you look at the July 2020, just the month to date, second column from the right, you'll see operations better, worse than budget. We were actually better than budget for expenditures for the month by 43,770. Last year at the end of July 2019, we were worse than budget expenditures wise by 29,657. So that's to be better by about 70,000 from last year to this year for the month is what helps us to recoup that kind of ground and to have that 127,680 net income versus 12,000 and back in 1 month ago in June. Our expenditure to revenue ratio at the end of July is 93.8%. Lower number is always better. At the end of June is 99.3%. So we would expect to see a drop in that as we regain ground on net income. It was 82.1% at the end of July 2019. Now, if you turn the page, the next page to this is just the capital, the cash amount, showing you how much basically you have to work with cash-wise and reserves. Basically, the second row from the very bottom, the bold numbers, is showing you a projection of about, what we feel at this point we could look at for cash at the end of the year for SURF, 997,663, rows 1.3 million, capital reserves 678,000, so on and so forth. But these are all up from last year, July 2019. However, but then keep in mind one of the components on the reserve studies is how much the reserve studies always expect us that we're going to spend a certain amount in every year to maintain capital assets. So actually, if we don't spend as much as what the reserve study says in terms of a fully funded method projection or even baseline, then that amount technically kind of gets tacked on to the next year's reserve study. So it kind of like, if that lends into giving you a decreased reserve ratio, so to speak, on a fully funded basis. Now, if we turn the next page to now we're looking at the income statement again, but we're just looking at it from a departmental standpoint. I'll talk about golf. Actually, first column on the very left, actual revenues, $121,233. This is only for the month. So only for the month of July. Last year, they were 143,000. Now, of course, I know golf with this pandemic effect, they've had a kind of a decrease or cancellations and like special outings and stuff like that. So golf is actually doing fairly well, even given that with their daily revenue, how much that they picked up with that. So they're only off for the month by about 21,791. Expenditure-wise, golf had 82,177 for the month. So I'm adding up the actual salary benefits number with the actual other expenses number. Those two numbers together give you the 82,177 for golf. Last year at this time, at July of 2019, they had expenditures of 83,830. So they're better expenditure-wise by about 1,653. So they're somewhat similar to last year in terms of total expenditures. Net income, bottom line net income loss for golf at the end of July, they had 39,056 in operating net income. Last year, for the month of July 2019, they had 59,194. So they're down by about 20,000 overall in terms of, which is obviously, that's exactly the number that, well, not exactly, but really close to the number that they're off in terms of the revenue for July. Now, if you turn the page now, that we look at golf from a year-to-date basis, so now January through July 31, now you'll see where actual revenues for golf, 576,690 actual revenues for golf year-to-date in 2019 through July, 623,706. So they're under revenue-wise, as we would expect, since they were shut down for approximately 42 or 43 days, if I remember right, back during the mandatory shutdown because of the pandemic. So they're down revenue-wise for the year by about 47,000. However, in terms of expenditures, golf has year-to-date 467,176. Last year, year-to-date in 2019, they had 520,365. So golf, so now you're seeing where the expenditure savings comes into the fact that just, you know, that the fact that they were actually shut down during that 42, 43 day period. And in effect, like golf, also trying to make an attempt to decrease expenses. So they're under expenditures by 53,189 from last year, which actually now gives them a net income for the year of 109,514 versus last year in 2019, they had a net income of 103,341. So now year to date, golf is now better than last year by 6,173, which is pretty good given that shutdown. In terms of like
last year, golf finished the year with like a $10,000 operating surplus, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. In terms of like a departmental, like if you look at the departments overall, the only department that's under right now is maintenance. Of course, I've talked about this in all the other months. They're under by about 85,536, but they shouldered all that snow removal this year. Last year, like 94,000 of the snow removal actually was paid for out of UDRs. So this year we didn't do that. Not golf, but maintenance shouldered that whole burden. So we would expect to see that. But those are the highlights of the financial statements. So the good thing is we're making up nice ground in terms of in April when for the dues forgiveness of giving up, it was approximately $200,000 roughly of revenue. We're starting to make up nice ground for that through especially controlling expenditures.
Joel, I thought I heard you say that July, the total organization income statement was quite a bit better than July last year. What were the big differences this year versus last year?
Well, some big differences would definitely be like you have, now are you just talking about only for the month?
Yeah, for the month, July 2020 versus July 2019.
So like you definitely see differences when it comes to like the rec department. you know, the rec course is not open, so you have all these lifeguards that normally would be working right now that are not working. And that, if I remember right, that was around, I think like around 14, 15,000 or so, like difference in terms of like in rec, like especially for the year, or even possibly even for the month on that. But
Well, we still got the dues coming in from the rec assessment. We don't have the expenses.
that's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course that's helping out. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I just want to know, you know, if it's a one-time thing and what the explanation is. So that, I mean, that makes sense. I'd be curious how much that is contributing to the bottom line.
I mean, like big things like, for example, salary and benefits for the month of July were better than budget by 26,288. Contract professional services were better than budget by over $10,000. Utilities were better than budget by about 6,600. And then on the flip side of that, we also have marina income still coming in for almost $14,000. New home construction fees, 4,200 right there. Of course, obviously our collection rate is better than the 92% budgeted collection rate, which is helping us by 11,000. And also with the special operations assessments, 2,700 extra in collection rates. So all those just cumulatively are adding up to really helping us out for July.
Hey, Joel, what is our, you use this number quite a bit. For every dollar we bring in, what is our expense off that dollar?
So okay, so for, this is year to date. So for July, we're 93.8%. Last year in June, we were 99.3%. Now, of course, anytime our net income actually becomes positive, which is now, and it's increasing, that expenditure to revenue ratio will naturally go down, which is what we want to see. In July 2019, it was 82.1%, but they had a greater net income at the end of July, year to date.
Do you happen to know what it is, just the month over month, like for July 2020 compared to July 2019, just looking at the month alone?
I can calculate it pretty quickly. Okay, so at the end of July 2020, it was 68.9%. And of course, remember, the lower number is always better.
That's pretty cool, Joel. You have an actual calculator. I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
Yeah.
It's an abacus. It's not a calculator.
You're legit. Lori's legit too. Good job.
It's an abacus. It's not a calculator.
Yeah. Probably a TI-85.
Yeah, I'm pretty
It
sure.
probably is.
It's only a TI-83.
I had one of those too. That was in high
So
school.
July 2019, we were worse. We were 70%.
Okay, and
So
that's
we're better in
probably,
expenditure ratio in July. Yes.
and it's
For the month.
probably partially due to the rec department, where I think
Yeah.
in the month of July, we're seeing something like a, pull it up real quick.
So on the current trend that we're looking at, I think last year we ended up somewhere, around every dollar we brought in was somewhere around 92 or 93 cents we spent. Is that about right?
Last year?
Yeah, year to date, end of
Oh,
year
well,
to date.
Yeah, year to date, last year we were,
No, at the end of the year, total at the end of the year, we're about 92 cents, 93 cents on every dollar.
I'd have to pull it up to see. I don't remember right off the top.
On our trend right now, are we going, I know
Oh, yeah, we're definitely, I mean, like, because we were negative, for what?
for a long
month.
time,
Like,
and
yeah.
a lot of that was due to the dues, but
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
also haven't reclassified the PPP loan to income yet either. right?
No, we haven't done that either. So that's not even helping us out right now.
I'm just looking at pure column, pure dollars in, pure dollars out.
I know, and I'm just looking at, what's the range where we might finish by the end of the year and what kind of a cushion are we going to be creating?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially if we look at pure dollars in, pure dollars out, not including that PPP, that's only going to be better for us in the back end.
With Now, in terms of salaries, better or worse, like if you turn to the page 4 for you on the handout, where it says the current month, where you're looking at it from a departmental only standpoint. So basically, it's the 4th column from the very left. That salary and benefits better or worse, you'll see, so I was right, that rec pools and parks better than budget by 16,565, but we would expect to see that since the rec center is not open at this point. So you don't have any of these lifeguards going on. Actually, golf is better than budget by 9,227 for the month. Those are the two big ones right there. Maintenance is
Okay.
actually better by 3424.
All right, we're getting into the weeds a little bit too much here. Things are good.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate your enthusiasm, Joel. I had a question. So on the collection rate, what did we actually end 2019?
It was 97.3%. That I remember.
Okay, I believe you. So at this point, last year we were 96.7, so we improved by 0.6% between August and the end of the year. If we improve by, obviously I said if, so if we improve by 0.6% this year, we'll finish at 95.1.
Yeah, we would. Yeah.
So does that give anyone pause about our assumptions for the budget? I'm not saying it should. I'm asking, if we're projecting, or if I'm making up math and projecting 95.1% right now based on what happened in 2019 and what we know now, do we feel comfortable with 95% going into next year? And does our large projected surplus help provide a cushion to make us feel comfortable with proceeding with that budget for 2021? Did that make any sense?
Made sense.
Okay.
Colin, I am confident that even if we fall, say 94.7%, which it could happen even if it falls at 94%. If that happens and we track it the way Joel and I track it, we will make changes and adjustments to that point. I have the utmost confidence with my team and Joel and in everything here that we will physically make it work.
Okay, so we will know based on the data as the year starts if it's trending similar to this year, then or whatever, based on historical information. If we see a problem, we can make adjustments with enough time to not result in a problem by the end of the year.
Right. And I mean, we came out of the first quarter, Colin, in a very solid position based off of a 92% budget. And we will track this. I mean, I beat Joel up a lot of this. I want to see, I'm kind of old school. I want to see the dollar I bring in versus the dollar I expend, just like we all do in our own household. Now you're an accountant, Joel's accountant. There's a lot of little things you guys do that are accountants. I don't care about that. I want actual dollars versus actual expense. I can make changes on that on the fly.
Of course, he's talking about depreciation, and stuff like that.
Accountants have feelings too, Joe.
I know you do, but I care about actual dollars and actual expense. That's what I care about.
You don't care about GAAP accounting? Come on, man.
You know what? We don't use GAAP accounting in our own checkbooks, and this is our big checkbook. And the processes that we have in place for GAAP accounting are all taken care of. But at the end of the day, it's true dollars versus true expense.
However, at the end of the year, we use GAAP accounting whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Those financial statements.
So I just want to add to that because I know this has gotten a lot of discussion. And when I voted to adopt the budget as it was, collection rate had been talked about a lot, but what gave me comfort was seeing how we have managed expenses over the last 2 years in very different situations. So last year we had a lot of revenue, way more than we budgeted, and we were looking at a very strong economy. And Joe and Joel kept our expenses in line and even less than budget. And here we are facing a dynamically different economic outlook, and we're managing expenses according to the situation that we're in. And I am impressed with the amount of headway we've been able to make. We were able to forgive dues for a month and, 200,000, and we're looking at not nearly that much in a net loss right now. So I also have confidence in this team to be able to manage the expenses and to adapt to the situation that we're presented with next year. And also, as I look at, I hope that it doesn't come to this, but I know we have been able to not utilize UDR funds for all of the things that come across like we had in the past. And so we have a decent amount sitting there, which when we first decided to forgive dues this year, it was, oh, if we get ourselves in a situation, we have that bucket of money. We haven't had to dip into it. Doesn't look like we're going to need to with PPP. And so if next year turns out much different, then that's still there as a last resort. So I am not feeling concerned. Well, I'm feeling concerned in general, but about the economy and all that, but I am not feeling particularly concerned about our ability to manage our budget. So
I think it's a question that I've heard, and I just wanted to get the guys, because Joel and Joe are the guys dealing with this, on the record. And yeah, I don't have any concerns. I think the data supports what the budget's showing, and knowing what I know, I totally believe, Joe, that we can make the adjustments necessary if they slow down. So I would much rather budget to a realistic number than budgeting to a cushion. Like if we had 97%, then budgeting for 92%, I don't like that, So I think 95% is a good number.
thanks, Colin. Hey, Joel,
Thanks,
could you read off to me again the reserves, the year-over-year funding percentages? I was writing them down, but I started late. But would you mind going over those again?
Okay, for SURF, so I'll start with the 2019 then instead of the 2020 numbers. So for SURF, 2019, 26%, and that's on a fully funded method projection basis, 26%. 2020, we were 9%. Which we would expect to see if we don't spend as much as what the reserve study says, or contribute as much as what the reserve study says. And that's largely what contributes to that, like the difference in those numbers. Roads, it was 30% 2019, and 2020 was 19%. Mailbox, 21%, 2020 is 20%. And of course, the difference of, even though we're not spending a mailbox, but to go from 21% to 20%, this paltry little difference is we're not contributing as much as what the reserve study says we should contribute on a fully funded method projection basis. It's not like it's a huge difference, but that's why you would see like a little drop like that.
Okay, thanks. So next month, October, will be our last meeting before the AGM. And at the AGM, there's a new board and they'll elect a new treasurer, and the treasurer will. So I just wanted to get any feedback if there's anything that you think we need to cover. I definitely have my ideas, but before we close out the year with this finance committee. And in fact, I think last year, maybe the board approved the committee members themselves continuing just in case. You recall that, Leslie or Joe? I don't think we had a meeting, but just in case.
No, I don't think we had an October meeting last year because we had
Yeah.
no
Okay, I
business
don't know
coming
if I'm getting
forward.
interrupted. Okay.
Oh, you froze,
Yeah.
In
Leslie.
the last couple of years, the board has approved carrying over the members on this
Yeah, they have
finance
approved.
committee into the first meeting in November before. Yeah, that's been customary for the last few years.
Until all the new committees could get set and done. Yes, that has been done. But I don't, as far as a meeting in October, I don't think we've had one because we had no business coming forward. Financials were done at the end of October, just like we would normally do in the board meeting. But I do not think the finance had a meeting last October.
You should
which
have
would
a
have been my
goodbye
first
party.
year, so.
Yeah. Well,
What was that, Trey?
We should have a goodbye party, social distancing at Agave, at one per table.
There we go.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We can
Go.
meet at
You want to
the-
second that?
We'll meet
I
at the
can't second.
pavilion at the marina. I was planning to have one next month just to make sure we have all loose ends tied up. And I kind of
That's-
want to maybe look at projections through the end of the year if we can, so we just kind of have a handle on where we think we'll end the year.
We'll be 1 month into the last quarter.
Yeah.
We'll actually have 3 quarters under our belt. We should have a good idea. As everybody knows, this is a time where we start slowing down, expenses kind of wind down. We still have pretty good revenues. We can get you guys, and I'm going to put Joel on the spot. I think we can get a fairly good projection to where we might hit year end. Sorry, Joel.
I kind of already talked to him about it too. I was like, we do Q4 forecast, right? That's standard. So
We can forecast out, I think.
yeah.
It's not Joel's and my first rodeo to forecast out the last quarter. So
Yeah. And then, yeah, so then anyone that wants to apply after that can apply to the finance committee, and that is online, and those are, but we can talk more about that next month. But I just wondered if there was any other business that has been hanging out there that anyone feels that we need to cover next month. If you don't think of it right now, you can certainly send me an email. Just make sure that we wrap up any loose ends if you feel like there might be some. All right, I will then move it into member questions and comments. If we have any members joining us.
We do. We have 4 people in our audience. I'm not sure if anybody would like to add their comments, but if you'd like to. Looks like Anne's raised her hand, so I'll go ahead and bring her on over. There you go, Anne.
Thanks. Hi, can you clarify what you're talking about, carrying new members or carrying board committee members to the new board?
Oh, only on like an emergency basis before the new committee got set up. I believe in the past couple of years, they have allowed the existing committee, not the board members, but I believe the members to the committee to stay intact in case there was any business that needed to be conducted before that new treasurer or old treasurer even got the committee established. Since the AGM is in November, the beginning of November, sometimes that holiday timeframe, it takes a little bit of time to get the committee established, and sometimes that doesn't happen until.
Were committee members not chosen on the night of the AGM last year?
Not the committee members, no. The board members that would be on it, yes, but the committee members, so in order to have a quorum, those are not chosen, no.
The treasurer, the finance committee was not ready to go when the AGM happened last year, is that correct?
Correct, yes. It starts over, like that, the treasurer that's elected by the board gets to form their own committee based on the applications that are submitted after the AGM.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm muted. Thanks, Anne. Have a good night. Anybody else care to add their comments? Just use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Oh, Anne's back. Looks like she's got her hand raised again. I'll go ahead and bring her back over. There you go, Anne.
Thanks. Actually, I just have one comment about the collections rate. I really wanted to be clear that that July 98% is a little skewed, since it's a lot of people were paying past months because of the grace period. So I think the fact that August is 93.9 is pretty telling, and I really am not comfortable with the collection rate at 95%, and I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Anne. Have a good evening. Oh. All right. Anybody else? I'm not seeing any further hands raised at this point.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I I think Trang or Leslie seconded it. Somebody did. Okay, we will adjourn at 7:32 p.m. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great month and